If somebody asked me, who is Steve Saporito, I'd have to say, Steve Saporito saved my life. My name is John Ratchford. I own a studio in Nova Scotia, Canada. It was 2017. I think about at that point 7 or 8 years in a row of just really struggling in business. And at one time I had a really successful studio. Probably one of the most successful ones in Canada. And man, we were on top of the world. And then the industry changed. A lot of things changed. The customer changed, and I don't know, I wasn't keeping up with it. And I was burned out. I was cynical. I was depressed. And it was like a marriage that, was once good, and now you're not communicating and you're sleeping in different rooms. And that's how I felt about the business. And I was ready for a divorce. So it was the summer of 2017. I had made a few decisions. Nothing hard, but I had a few ideas of things that I might do in place of photography. And in a way, I was kind of brokenhearted about that, but I was ready to move on. So I booked a retreat in Guelph, Ontario, because I thought I might work for the church, or I might work for, Catholic Christian outreach. I had some ideas, and I even made some contacts. But after the retreat, it was an 8-day silent retreat, because I thought I would pray if I would make a big decision like that. And a funny thing happened. I felt God saying two things. One was, I want you to go back to work. And I know that had to be God, because honestly, that was the last thing I wanted to hear. And the other thing was that it's great that you made 8 days for me that were quiet, but I want a piece of you every single day, and that I can help you. So I came home with those two thoughts. So I booked PPA, went to Nashville, and I remember I had a journal, and I wrote on the top of the journal, because I was very conscious of being this intentional. God, make me humble so that I can be teachable and that I can relearn things I already forgot, or things I think I know. And the convention was pretty good. It was the last day of the expo, and I go into Graphy Studios' booth to say hello. And one of the girls there introduces me to Steve Saporito. Now I want to make it clear, when the girls from Graphy introduced me to Steve, I was on the defensive. I didn't want to talk to him. And Steve was asking me, are you frustrated with the business? Are you struggling to make money? And I've been around this business 25 years. I've heard everything. And I was actually trying to exit the conversation, but Steve wouldn't let it go. He was for sure identifying all those pain points, but I was still trying to leave. And Steve asked me, he said, pretend you're a customer and you're calling me for like a family picture. And I don't have any kids, I'm not married, so I say I'm getting a staff photo of Courtney and Megan. That's who worked for me at the time. So Steve says, describe them to me. And as I'm describing them, he says, tell me a story about Courtney. And because I said Courtney was really kind, which she is. And I told this story about how on the year I turned 50, Courtney planned this big party, put a lot into it. And that was during a time that I wouldn't have done the same thing, because that same year she went home, found her husband, 36 years old, dead on the floor. And at the same time, she's looking after her mother, who's dying of cancer. And yet she did that for me. And I don't think I would have done the same thing under the same circumstances. And at that moment, I broke down crying. Steve says to me, now how much is this photograph worth? And I kind of suddenly realized what he was doing there, and I saw a couple of things. I saw the value of what I do with photography, how just important it is to have. And he also gave me something else. He gave me this permission to love these people who were in front of me every day, that I'd become so jaded and self-absorbed that I couldn't see them. And he just made me realize how special they were. And he opened that up in me, and I thought, gosh, I can do that for other people. And right away, that took on a whole new meaning of what I do. But he wasn't done. He looked at me, and I think Steve could tell I was carrying around a big, heavy load. And he takes me aside. He said, "Come on aside." And we sat down where no one was around. And you know what? I just dumped on him everything I've been carrying around the last few years. And we had one of those moments. I felt like Robert De Niro's character in The Mission. You know, he was carrying around this big bag of, this big net of artillery all through the jungle with the Jesuits. And this was like his self-punishment. In a sense, I was kind of doing the same thing. And I don't know how, but Steve could see that. And I think it was that day that I started to let that stuff go.
Well, when John, 2 years ago, saw Steve in Vegas, I found when he came back, he had like a new interest in the business. He was excited again. He got that joy back that made it exciting. So when John did get back, he was telling us all about the discovery calls, and he was getting us all excited about it. And he was so excited. We watched him do a few, and then that got me excited to actually call the customers and it not be just a regular call of just making an appointment. It was actually feeling the emotion they feel and how it made it better for them. Steve kind of talked to him about his staff, and I never realized how much John actually appreciated us. And actually we touched him in a personal way, because when he came back, he was telling us the story that he started to cry in the class. I just couldn't believe that he actually did that, talking about his staff, so it was pretty nice to hear. I love when John goes to Steve's classes. He comes back so excited, so energized. I can't wait for him to go back to another one again, and then bring all the new ideas and the new excitement back to the studio.
Now, since then, I've paid for 5 of Steve's workshops. I'm sending my staff on one coming up in the next one.
I'm super excited to meet Steve because I have watched, I think, 30 hours plus of videos of him, so I feel like he's my buddy. Steve is like a therapist. It's not just business advice, it's people advice, and he teaches you how to reframe every situation and turn it into a positive and bring out the value and the importance in everybody.
So I have hope now, and I don't remember having hope for years. There was this black cloud around me, follow me everywhere, and I can't remember the last time I felt it there. I don't know if I'm Steve's best friend, but Steve is my best friend, and certainly one of the top guys in my life. He's changed it. He gave it back to me. So did he talk me off a bridge? Not really, but sort of. So when I say Steve Saporito saved my life, like, he really did. He did that for me. I can't thank him enough. So when someone asks me about Steve Saporito, I can honestly say, yeah, Steve Saporito saved my life.